Testing. Oh, oh my God, this is insane. It's like, this looks like it's like some official thing. Let's see, and then there's like a 1 minute delay here. Oh, there we go.
It looks like
Now, can you hear me when I talk?
I can hear you perfectly. Oh, good.
Is he taking a photo of us on your screen? A video?
Mhm.
Are you doing a video?
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Mhm.
All right, so we are on YouTube. We are, Jeff, can you hear me?
Oh.
Where's the party?
Hide self view. Okay. Let's get Jeff. Come on, Jeff. No, but it shows you're in. Maybe it's something on my side that maybe I can hear myself. No. Yeah, because the webinar is different. But okay, so if you go to the top Zoom menu and go to preferences, can you get there? Then do you see video? And what does it show for you? Okay, all right, so that should be working. And then audio. All right, Jeff, I'm hanging up here. All right, we have a host.
Okay, am I good? Can you hear me?
Hello. Yep. One second.
Can you hear me? Ranjan?
Yep. Loud and clear.
Okay, good. Thank God.
All right. Yeah. So actually, I hope now. Oh, do you know what it could be? You can either join as an attendee. It was only the unique link I'd originally sent that Zoom generated. It allows you to be a host, but now you are.
So the others should be in by now, right? Well, you said 10 of, but.
Yeah, let me
text Marcy.
And just checking, Jeff, you can hear me okay, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
I got some interesting questions for you, Ariana. I hope you're ready.
I hope they aren't
Hey, are you doing any Q&A, Ranjan, at the end?
I guess what I could do.
If you could facilitate that, that would be good. It's a long time, it's 90 minutes.
No, 60.
It is, okay, good. Lauren,
Yeah,
my assistant, freaked me out this morning. She said it was 90.
90 is insane.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and I honestly think, I'll keep the Q&A open, and then I'll monitor it. So hold on, and just to check, neither of you can see me, right?
No, we can.
Wait, you can see me?
Yes.
Yes, brother.
Oh, hold on.
You're joining the panel, aren't you?
I'm happy to. No, but I was trying to figure out. There's got to be a way to.
Just turn your camera off. Well, but you'll still show as a box. You'll still show as a box.
It'll still show as a box. All right. I was hoping there was a way. Hold on. I want to see something. I'll be right. This is first time using Zoom webinar for me too. So. Oh, what the hell? Okay, this is good. We have a few extra minutes. I'm going to try something now. I'm going to
scoot out a minute.
Yep. All right, so get off video now. Oh, hello, Marcy.
Hi guys.
Hi, Marcy.
Hi, Ariana. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. All right, let's just see if my lighting is okay here. Hey. Hi, Ranjan.
Hello. I'm trying to figure out in webinar if there's like a way to be like a technical manager where you can not have a box showing currently, but otherwise I can hear you great, so that's good.
Anything we need to know, or are you gonna open the floor to Q&A, or is that not feasible given the way we're doing this?
No, it's definitely feasible. So I'll be monitoring the Q&A, the chat. Oh, hello, Laura. How's it going? Can you, oh,
Hello, can you hear me okay?
we can hear you loud and clear. All right, we have everybody. I will be monitoring the chat, looking for Q&A, and I think we should do Q&A, and we will seed some questions if nothing is coming through. So yeah, we can definitely, I'll tell Jeff when he gets back, but take like 15 minutes on the Q&A. Yeah, I think everyone looks great. I can hear you. Can we do a quick sound check? Laura, starting with you.
Testing, testing, 1, 2.
Perfect. Marcy.
Hello, hello, hello. 1, 2, 3.
Perfect.
Amy.
Ariana.
Testing, testing.
Sounds good. And Jeff in a moment. And then for reference, I'm trying to figure out, apparently Zoom webinars doesn't have like a technical role where the person can monitor everything but not have a black box if I turn off my video. So I will probably be looking like this, but I'm trying to figure this out right now. Actually,
Question, obviously Zoom is not the most stable platform sometimes. So if like somebody freezes, will you just skip over and, okay.
yeah,
For
Jeff.
some reason, I'm frozen or something.
Yeah, Jeff, Laura's just asking, but yeah, if anyone freezes, it's always saying, the participant will wait for them to unfreeze or moving to the next person. Yep.
And people should have their phone or an alternate device just in case something happens on your laptop. And then just jump to an alternate device is always my best advice. Marcy.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Good. Laura.
Hi.
So what did you decide on Q&As, Rondon? Can you facilitate that or no?
Yeah, definitely. So we can do it. Actually, I think here's the best way we'll do it. We will.
You can see everything, right? Should they put them in the chat?
Yeah, can you guys all see the chat? I'm going to chat just to host and panelists right here.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I will do is any questions. So maybe 1:45, Jeff, 1:40, even whenever you feel comfortable, shift to Q&A, and I will make sure any questions end up here in the chat. And if you can just take them from there and then ask around to the panel and then facilitate there.
Yeah, and feel free to, I guess, prod. I don't know how you can, maybe if there are any issues, Rondon, just text me, I guess.
Yeah.
Why don't you start a text thread with me now?
Yeah.
And so you can produce via mobile.
Yep, gonna do that right now.
And then guys, the first question is just, I want you to tell your story. I assume there are a fair amount of young people watching. I think your individual stories will be very inspirational. So I want them to really get to know you guys right off the bat. And then Ariana, I'm going to throw to you to kind of provide context to why we're here and what Adore Me is trying to do. And then we'll walk through those series of questions, anywhere from standards and metrics to fast fashion to, who do you think is doing a good job about this around the world, et cetera, kind of a microcosm. And I've sent you all just broad topics. So we've got a good amount of time so we can have a good, thorough conversation. Ranjan, have you tried everyone's audio levels? Well, yeah, Laura, I heard you, Marcy, I heard you, and Ariana, I heard you. So I think everyone is fine.
Yep, everyone sounds great.
You said it's streaming on LinkedIn. Is that through your channel? Through Adore Me?
YouTube, and it's just through a personal YouTube account, but the link is live as getting we found out about 18 hours ago, it takes 24 hours to permission the official Adore Me account to allow for live streaming, but
yeah.
Yeah. So as a workaround, just I think we had like about 120 people registered, so that was good. And then I'll send around the YouTube link just one more time to the group if you just want to text it to anyone.
Yeah, I don't know what your post strategy is, Ranjan, but I think COVID taught everyone that, it's less about the first window. It's more about the long tail of the content. So a lot of conferences I know are getting so many views after the fact. So I don't know what your plan is to promote and give some afterlife to this, but that's where I think you'll really make some hay.
Agreed.
Yep. Yeah, it's all being recorded, and I'm excited.
Well, thanks for the invitation. So 1 minute, right, Ranjan?
Yep. Yeah, I think 1 minute and
Will you say anything or I just start?
if you can just start. Yeah, maybe give it to like 101 or so, just
And this participant number is a live number. I'm seeing 7 down in the bottom corner.
yeah, I think so. I think that's the attendees that you're probably seeing.
Right. So now it's at 9. So
Yeah,
we'll see
seeing
how
more
it goes.
people. Yeah,
But
yeah,
you
yeah. I
said-
think give it an extra minute or two.
So you
It's
said
starting to see people.
120 registered though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And are we live to the group right now? Can they hear us?
They can.
Okay, so I'll shut up.
No, it's a conversation.
For those of you that have tuned in, it's exactly 1 o'clock. We're going to give it a couple of minutes to let the crowd grow. But thank you for tuning into this very auspicious inaugural. Ariana, have you guys done something like this before?
We have not. I think this
Okay.
is our first panel that
Great.
we're on. So it's very exciting. I know a lot of people in the company are looking forward to it.
So you got the good mic too. You splurged for the good mic.
I know, I feel like I'm on Ariana's radio show.
I know.
I know. I walked into the setup and I was like, oh, wow.
You got a
Nothing
good radio
but the
voice.
best. Nothing but the best from Tina Dorman.
Yay. Designer by day, radio host by night.
I don't know if anyone wants to hear me talk that much. I don't even want to hear myself talk that much.
We'll give it till about 1:03. I think that's fair. Fair and balanced, Marcy. Fair and balanced.
I like that. I'm a big 1 and 3 numerology person, so that's good.
Are you at home, Marcy?
I am. I'm in New York City right now.
In that beautiful building up here.
Yeah, 55 floors up.
Yes, yes, with the insane gym.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. But I'm heading to PA later. So good stuff.
Lovely necklace, Laura.
Thank you.
Their story. It looks like it comes with a story.
You know, it's just one of those accent pieces that I was like, when I throw that on, I think it'll just give whatever I'm wearing more life. So no, not really a story, although I did buy it in New York.
That'll work.
So love over in the fashion district. So, there you go. It's tied to everything that we're doing.
So we bring New York to you if you're not in New York, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Ariana, you're in New York as well, right?
Yeah. Yep. In our office in Soho.
Great. Well, it's 1:03, so I think we will get started. Good afternoon, and thank you all for tuning in. My name is Jeff Rochester. I'm the CEO and founder of GRC Advising, and we do marketing and financial strategies for brands and nonprofits. It's my joy and honor to be your host for the next hour. This is a panel called How Do You Make Sustainable Fashion Affordable? We'll be discussing all aspects of that. I think clearly there's a perceptual issue when we think about sustainability. And I think one of the driving perceptions across multiple sectors, it could be travel, it could be food, is that quote unquote, doing the right thing costs more. So today we'll be exploring what that feels like with the fashion industry. And as my guest, I'm happy to have 3 people very, very experienced in the space. First being Ariana Levin, who is a senior designer at Adore Me, and she's kind of she will be the originator of the idea. She'll tell us why Adore Me is so interested in this topic, what they're doing to lead on it, and how they want to align and partner with others. So Ariana is kind of our tour guide on the genesis of why we're doing this. Then we have Laura Lucas, and she is the founder of Pando Cap, and her lane is kind of, she knows fashion, but speaking on her behalf, her lane is kind of public markets, capital, how they look at these issues. And she'll tell you more about her background. And finally, we have Marcy Zarif, who's a very dear friend, known her for years, and she is the founder of Eco Fashion. She is the OG. She is the GOAT of the space. And so, you know, we've got the folks that are newer to the sector and the folks that have been doing this a long time. We're looking forward to a very engaging conversation. We invite you to put questions in the chat. The last 15 or 20 minutes, we'll take any questions that are around. So we'll start first. Before we delve into the topic, I want the audience to hear the journeys of the three panelists. You're all very different. You're all very interesting. And you all came to fashion, I presume, in very different ways. So Ariana, why don't you tell us your journey?
I would love to, and very excited to be here with all of you and talk about this topic that I think everyone needs to hear and kind of get ideas about. So like Jeff said, my name is Ariana Levine. I'm a senior designer here at Adore Me. I studied sustainable fashion design and development in school, and it's always been a real kind of focus area for myself when it comes to designing, you know, with all of the impending information about climate change. And we're seeing it more and more in our faces in the media, social media, news, essentially any outlet now is talking about this conversation, and industries really have a purpose and responsibility to make the right choices and making it easier for customers to make better choices for themselves and for the environment. And fashion in general has just always been my creative outlet. I'm originally from Kansas, but now, of course, in New York City for work after school, came here. One really great thing I've loved through my journey is at Adore Me, it didn't start as a sustainable brand, as like a main core value, just kind of putting that out there for everyone to be aware. And so with sustainability and fashion design being a main focus for myself, I've really been able to work with people here at the company, and we've all kind of banded together to see how do we make this transition? How do we make this shift in different projects, in different spaces that we're all working in? And so being a bit younger in the space and leaning on different experiences like Marcy and Laura both have, starting from scratch has been definitely a fun journey with ups and downs. But I think the greatest thing is that we're all open to learning here at Adore Me for the better change.
Great. And Laura, your path?
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everybody. I'm really excited to be here on my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. You know, I'm an immigrant. I was born in Guadalajara, Mexico. My grandmother taught me how to sew when I was very young. I've always had this design and creative background from just a very early age. After I was here in the US, I was in the financial industry for quite a long time, over 10 years. And then I decided to venture out and become an entrepreneur. And I built my own fashion company based on some of the designs that I was doing and producing worldwide, and ended up then later selling my company to Stitch Fix, which was an interesting journey, obviously, that I took as an entrepreneur. And then later on, I joined NASDAQ, where I was managing director of new listings and capital markets, where I was guiding companies around their sustainability strategy on how to really think through what they were going to be, if you will, as a grown-up on the public markets, and how it should not just be about the profits that companies would get as you enter the market, how you could be more sustainable, how you could think about a purpose and focus on that. And I was fortunate enough to work with some great companies that had a purpose behind it, including The Real, Airbnb, Lyft. So even outside of just fashion, there's a slew of ways to really think through the sustainability of a company and have more purpose around it. And today, I advise companies with my consulting firm around this. And then I also I'm a venture partner at a $100 million fund that supports Latino entrepreneurs.
Fantastic. And Marcy.
Hi, well, thanks to Adore Me, and thank you, Jeff, for having me here, and everybody for being here. So we've all talked about the journey. Well, the journey of 1,000 miles, right, begins with one step, as Lao Tzu once said. And my journey has been over 30 years in the making. I actually, unlike Ariana, who started in fashion and moved into sustainability, I actually started in sustainability and moved into fashion. So my first business, I'm a serial entrepreneur. In 1990, I co-founded a school that's known today as the Institute for Integrative Nutrition and is the world's leading holistic nutrition school, having certified over 150,000 people worldwide as health coaches. And partnered up with the founder of Aveda very early in my career, and he became my mentor of over 25 years, connecting the dots from food to beauty. And it was then that I had an epiphany that there was a missing link in the wellness equation, and I coined and trademarked the term eco-fashion in 1995. People thought I was absolutely crazy, that those two worlds were, dichotomous and they would never be able to be brought together. And I said, well, I want to style the world of change and change the world of style, bridging the tree hugger and the fashionista and the tribe and the boardroom, because I live in both of those worlds. And so in 1995, I started the first sustainable fashion and home brand in North America called Under the Canopy, with the premise that we all live under the canopy of the planet's ecosystem together. We're all in this together. And through the course of the past 25 plus years, I've been deep in the trenches, pioneering the sustainable fashion movement, looking to democratize sustainable fashion, which is why I'm so excited to be here today, to make it affordable, accessible, and keep that authenticity every step of the way. I authored a book called Eco Renaissance, Co-Creating a Stylish, Sexy, and Sustainable World, which was published by Simon & Schuster a few years ago. And a renaissance, of course, is a rebirth. So happy birthday, Laura. And now, I believe we're at this time for humanity that through the lens of design, we can change the world, right? It's about looking at design as an ecosystem and part of a collective consciousness shift. And so the pillars of the eco-renaissance are creativity, because that is the key, consciousness, community, collaboration, and connection. And that's what I speak to in my book, is I connect the dots from food to beauty to fashion to business to art to wellness. And today I'm the founder and CEO of a greenhouse of brands called Eco Fashion Corp. And we have the engine of our company is called MetaWare, which is really the intel inside of sustainable fashion. We've spent 25 years building supply chains so that we can create a turnkey plug and play experience for major brands and retailers and take them on that journey and connect source to story. And then we have 3 of our own brands, 2 which live on QVC. One is called Farm to Home, and one is called Seed to Style. And then we have a direct to consumer brand called Yes And, which pretty much sums up my life work, which is, yes, we can have everything that we want in the way of great taste when it's food. And oh, by the way, it's healthy, or beautiful, high functioning, beautiful scented products for beauty. And oh, by the way, they're non-toxic. And in fashion, it's lead with style, quality, fit, color, comfort, hand, price. And oh, by the way, ethically made, organic, recycled, biodegradable, low impact, fair trade, and all that yummy stuff. That's the and. So the yes and philosophy, which really, drives this movement, is that it's about no compromise. And so I'm really excited to be here today and share more and where the change we all wish to see.
Great. So, and this is a bit of a meeting logistic thing, and I apologize to the panelists. Are you all comfortable sharing your email? So if you are, so Ranjan, can you put, Laura, are you cool with that? Also, okay, good. Ranjan, can you put the panelist email in the chat box so the audience can see it? So look, this is, we're coming together. This assemblage of folks is new, but I think you can tell everyone is very committed and has a passion around the topic. So if you want to follow up with any of the panelists after the session, you'll be able to have access to their emails, or of course, hit everybody on LinkedIn. So now, just to tee this up, Ariana, over to you. Why are we here? Why is Adore Me so focused on this topic? What's your vision? And why don't you frame the issue?
Absolutely. So Adore Me was originally founded in 2011 as an online lingerie startup. And we've definitely evolved from there. To give you some background, so we're now direct to consumer brand with women's wear product categories spanning not just lingerie, but loungewear, swimwear, maternity, active. We also have beauty under our umbrella as well. And so it really is a brand that now serves women of all sizes in all phases of life. And through the growth of the company, there's been a series of innovation-driven sister brands with the different product categories, and affordable sustainability has really become front and foremost something we're all striving and achieving to do to make sustainable clothing available to all consumers. When we look at the US market, only about 52% say that they want fashion industry companies to follow more sustainable practices, but only 29% of those consumers are willing to pay more. And when they say pay more, it's about 5-10% of an increase on price. And when we're developing and working on these products in this space, the premium that we're seeing can be very volatile and fluctuate a lot depending on the material, depending on the production process. And so the idea is that the affordable sustainability movement is really a group of brands, retailers, manufacturers, and any other member throughout the supply chain that strongly believe that sustainability needs to be available at more affordable price point. The idea, I think Marcy really touched on it great with some of her brands, that it's giving them the right product, the power of design, the power of still connecting with the customer with what they want to buy, but it's also made in a really great way. It isn't as detrimentally impacted into the environment, into the social span of it. Because it's, when we think about this, it's not just the environmental side of it. There's also a social role, where our clothes are being manufactured, who's manufacturing them, and the impact in those communities along with our own. And so we really want everyone to feel like they can buy into these types of products and not alienate people. When we've done a lot of research on our own side in this space in the last decade or so, it kind of has a specific aesthetic and then also price point if you want to buy into sustainable products. And so we're really trying to break that stigma and find solutions, find innovations that can be truly scalable throughout all different kind of business models and all the different products that we produce.
And when you frame this as a campaign, so is this the official launch of the campaign? And what does that look like? Do you see getting retailers to join you, other lingerie brands, non-lingerie brands? Tell me about this, the frame out the campaign that you're looking to build, the coalition.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think partnerships are a really big part of this. No one knows everything, and we definitely don't know everything. We're already working with Marcy actually to kind of lean on her expertise in organics, cotton, and different production out of India, which I'm really excited about. And then I think when you look in to see how people are already working, even though H&M is known as fast fashion, big conglomerate, they are also have a big research and development side of their company. And they're working on some solutions for trying to recycling different blends. A lot of our fabrics are blended materials. They have different fiber content, and that can make it harder to recycle through product cycles. And so getting those kinds of solutions and finding ways to get them is definitely necessary. And the idea of this campaign, even though I'm here talking about Adore Me, it's kind of more along the lines of starting the conversation and then meeting the people who are also very much interested in joining this conversation and linking and finding ways to, give this to customers. Because if we're going to make a big change, it has to be in a way that's actually, reaching the masses of people, not just a small segment.
And Laura, over to you. You know, when you founded Ladad and when you were deep in fashion years ago, was affordability an issue for you? And even when you were dealing with Real, I would imagine that brand had a positioning around price point and affordability. So tell us about your experience with this notion of sustainability and affordability from your fashion background.
Yeah, it definitely was difficult. And that's why I think a lot of brands and a lot of companies, think through that process of how do we approach sustainability, because the price point is hard to get around. And so you start thinking about the supply chain that is a function of those key things that come into play when you're trying to build a sustainable brand. And the access to that, it isn't here in the US. You have to go outside of the US. You have to go to these other markets, and to go into some of these other markets, it's very expensive. And so then you start thinking through, well, okay, how do I come to a place where if I really want to support this mission around sustainability, starting to think through, do I start getting lower production runs to meet this because of the price points that it's at? Or do I start pushing some of that onto my supply chain and have them come to the table to work with me to start thinking about, my consumer is demanding that I be more sustainable. So how can we start implementing that through the whole supply chain? So when I had it was a difficult journey to do it back then, because the conversation was not so much at the forefront, and the conversation now has changed, because as we're seeing, with Adore Me, consumers are demanding that this be part of the strategy. And I think that brands are evolving to that. The Real is one of those brands where they started looking at how to create this circular economy by producing a report that shows the impact of being able to put goods back into the ecosystem and recycle them, and how that impacts carbon offset. So and that was back in 2018 or 19 when they went public. So it's we're getting there. And obviously, Jeff, with the United Nations and all of the different focus around how we need to really build long-term sustainable companies, that is a combination of what we're seeing now, that the demand from the consumer and the corporate is coming together so that we can work together on how to really bring that to the forefront to the consumer.
Ariana, what tell me about your culture, your philosophy around cost containment, cost optimization, and then Marcy, I want to go to you and get your broader perspective. But what has been your experience with Adore Me? To the extent you can share, what kind of tools are you using? How are you wrapping your mind around cost containment?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a conversation we have a lot. So Adore Me has always, from the forefront, offered customers products at a certain price point that we aim to always be accessible. So all of our sets have always been sold around $40 or $50. And so we have this kind of price constraint already built into our business. And so using that price constraint, we kind of look at overarching costs in the whole process, and internally kind of built in buffers for ourselves, depending on the product category, depending on, kind of seasonality. Like I said before, since we as a business are choosing to produce, we don't want to put that extra cost on the customer. We've kind of all held hands as a company throughout teams, throughout leadership, saying, no, this isn't the customer's responsibility to pay for. We want to make a better choice in how we're producing, how we're supplying the products to the customer. And so there is certain percentages that we are kind of accepting and buffering. And then when we look at sustainable products, from the very beginning, since we didn't start with these types of products on our website. It was really understanding, where are we starting from today? Where do we need to improve for tomorrow, for next year, the year after that, and how do we get there? And so kind of building tools to grade and rate our own products internally, and looking at different impact levels and kind of categorizing different sustainable stories within the development process. So we have kind of stories around organic fabrics, recycled fabrics, innovation, if it's innovation in fabrics or production processes, and then also saving water. And so within this kind of rating system that we've built and have, the idea is that if it's rated at like a 3 or more, it's on like the up and up, it's good, it has a positive impact from how kind of standard practices were done. And so kind of higher rating score, we are allowed as designers to have a bit more buffer room in the price. And so kind of keeping that all in mind as designers, if we thinking very much in percentages in kind of cost overall, we're like, okay, I have 5% here, I can put that 5% in a better material, or I can put that percent in a different dyeing or printing process for the finished good to give to the customer.
So Marcy, I mean, I don't, you guys are in this space, I'm not in this space. I mean, fundamentally, is it more expensive to do the right thing, to do this sustainably? And order of magnitude, very general question, but order of magnitude, how much more expensive does it tend to be? So give me your perspective. And then I want to roll with that from that into standards, because it seems, you know, my fear is that we've got hundreds, if not thousands of companies around the world trying to figure this out. Is there much leadership? Is there much standardization? Is everybody off on their own, or are there some resources where people can go? So Marcy, why don't you help me out?
So I would say, you know, relatively speaking, the sustainable fashion space is still at its infancy. We're really just getting started, even though it's been, for me, almost 30 years, right? But a lot of it has to do with supply and demand. And what's happening now is the economics, where there's a convergence of consumer demand married with all the collaboration that's happened in the supply chains that's allowed for better economies of scale and obviously better costing models. So a garment can change hands 7 to 10 times in a supply chain. And historically, for the first probably 20 years of my career, when I would go to a retailer or a brand, they were shopping at the factory, right? That's, even to this day, that's where most brands and retailers, they send their tech packs to a factory, and the factory then builds the supply chain down. And what happens when you do it that way, when you go down the supply chain, is that you're subject to a lot of inefficiency. Brokers every step of the way, fabric brokers, yarn brokers, cotton brokers, and all of them are taking their respective markups, right? So much of, really changing, shifting the paradigm of the costing models in our industry have been driven by going deeper into our own supply chains, right? So when I had that kind of aha that, the system, and I also, when I started, I couldn't go to a factory and say, hey, build me sustainable product, because they were like, looked at me cross-eyed. So it really had to be, for me, starting at the farm and the raw materials, innovating at that level, which is my happy place anyway, and building up this supply chain, cutting out all the middlemen and markups along the way, and then partnering with brands and retailers, as I said, or our own brands as well, to bring that vertical integration and those efficiencies into the product, where we can speak to a consumer from the lens of, this isn't about sacrifice and deprivation. This isn't about paying more for the sake of paying more. This is about getting added value and redefining what value is, right? Value to today's consumer, and I have 2 millennial kids, is very different than value in my generation, right? Because it's about values. And we talked about, the farm to table movement was really, originally, it was this desire to understand the source of our products. Well, that's starting to happen in this new generation. The internet has changed the game. They can pull the curtain back, the next consumer, and say, Who made my clothes? What's in them? How are they being made? Who's making them? And the fashion revolution movement has really been built on demanding transparency. And as we demand transparency as consumers, as businesses, again, it shifts the whole way we see our supply chain models, where price is important, no question about it, and we have to still be competitive, but you have to also do well by doing good now, right? Or you could be out of the game. So if you're all about, I mean, look what's happened to a number of fast fashion retailers that, you know, were all about price, going from 4 seasons a year to 52 seasons a year. And there was a period of time where, you know, they were the darlings of the fashion industry to that next generation. And today that next generation actually is like, wait a minute, you know, I don't know if I want to support those business models, because they've learned about the, you know, ramifications of fast fashion, right? So now where we are is it's not about staying ahead. It's about not being left behind. The premium that consumers are willing to pay, it's different depending on what the product category is. There are some categories that obviously, you know, they're willing to pay up for a little more than others. I mean, I can give you an example is, Carter's baby, right? Like, you know, and historically moms didn't want to spend much on baby clothes because the babies outgrow it so fast. But Carter's came in with a new organic brand that was priced up, I believe, like 30% from their, you know, classic pricing model. And they sold out of their entire 6-month collection in 6 weeks. Right. And I think what that demonstrates is the consumer today is thinking differently. And, you know, yes, they're not willing to pay 50% or 100% more, but I would say it's probably in that 10 to 30% more. And then when it comes to brands and how we navigate supply chains, you know, again, if we start from, you know, building partnerships and collaborating, where, you know, many of you have heard me say 1 + 1 = 11. We're stronger together than we are apart. And the cooperation that is going on in our textile and fashion industry today is driving innovation, scaling innovation, and making sustainable fashion more affordable than it's ever been before. And I would liken it to, in the food world, you know, everyone historically used to hear about Whole Foods being, you know, whole paycheck, right? Like that was the stigma of eating organic food and natural foods, that you had to pay 40% more. Well, I will say that Costco is the leading buyer of organic food today, not Whole Foods, right? And that says something. When you look at Walmart and Target and Costco and all the big mass market retailers, they're all in the game. Every multinational brand is in the game. And they recognize that now what we're looking at is that's where the growth is. That's where the future is, right? So, you know, yes, in the immediate, there's a little bit of a trade-off, but I think, as Yvon Chouinard said in his book, Let My People Go Surfing, every time you spend a little more and you step back to do it, you're going to leap ahead after that, because building customer loyalty, being relevant today, connecting source to story. I mean, the social media, digital media, it's changed the game in our ability as sustainable brands to tell the stories of why there's a little bit of a premium, if at all, right? And so that adds even more value as well.
So Laura, Marcy touched on a very popular topic for this conversation. So fast fashion, bad or good? Is it evolving or coming to an end? And H&M, friend or foe?
Whoa. I definitely think fast fashion is coming hopefully to an end here. I think as we've been discussing, it's the consumer is demanding it, right? Because of where we're getting some of these products. H&M, I saw that they're trying to come up with a sustainability messaging. We'll see how far that translates. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's wanting to see that source, wanting to have more transparency, and you just can't hide it anymore. So as I work with more and more companies, you know, that are publicly listed or private, they are working to incorporate this as part of their strategy. And that is key to the development of what's happening here. And a lot of that is being driven by the consumer. So whether H&M wants to do this or not, I think what's driving it is the change that the consumer is demanding, and more transparency behind it.
So talk about the capital markets, because I follow this pretty closely. There's a company called BlackRock, $7 trillion asset manager. Their CEO, every time he would send his CEO letter, everybody would read every word in that letter. It was like the gospel from on high. And then I would talk to my friends in financial services, and they would say, Jeff, people are saying all the right things on the financial side, but their actions don't follow their words. But I get the impression, sincerely, the last 2 years, certainly, both JP Morgan and BlackRock are bringing the full weight and muscle that they have to this conversation. So for the folks watching who are looking for private capital, looking for public capital, kind of tell us, your lens. Is it authentic? Are they asking the tough questions? Are they holding their portfolio companies accountable on this topic? Or are we really just starting?
No, I think you're right. It's been happening over the last 2 years. I remember when I was at NASDAQ 2 years ago, our CEO came back from Davos, and she said, this is the first time that I believe that this was in 2019, that this is not lip service. Yeah. This is actually the banking institutions, governments, and everybody involved in the UN here are really coming together to think about ESG. So ESG, environmental, social governance. And that strategy is now being adopted not only by the BlackRocks of the world, but also by many, many funds out there. And so what's happening is, now that the capital side of things are demanding that, then companies and all their stakeholders are getting involved as to how to do this, right? How to really think through that part of their business. So, when I was working at NASDAQ, setting companies up to enter the public markets, the strategy had to be, how are you thinking through the long-term sustainable component of your company? How do you make it more equally aligned on purpose and not just profit? And that is coming down by the investor community and all of the different fund managers that are out there. There's still a long way to go, because I think that the confusing part in the capital markets industry is there's no gold standard. There's all of these metrics that have been put out there by different governing bodies like, SASB and GRI, that are working together to try to really define what companies should be focused on to build their sustainability strategy, but there's still not regulation. And I think until we have something that is saying, here's the regulation and the gold standard behind it, it's going to be harder to really adopt. But we're seeing that the current administration is trying to put a lot of that down through the infrastructure bill. So I believe it's coming. But yes, I've seen over the last 2 years, it's been not just a conversation. There's actually wheels are in motion, and capital is being put towards that.
So just go a little deeper on the infrastructure bill, because I don't quite understand what you're saying. Is the infrastructure bill in some way, shape, or form addressing standards for fashion, or you're talking about climate standards, or explain further?
Yeah, no, I think the infrastructure bill is really looking through how your supply chain, where your supply chain is, and how to look at that, at your supply chain, and really from start to finish, making sure that the impact of that is sustainable across the board, not just on the fashion side. So on every aspect, on, food, construction, so from all ends. And so that obviously fashion being a big component of supply chain infrastructure, that's where we're thinking through, hey, how is this going to impact this industry? And so that's where it touches on that, on some of the standards the supply chain is looking at for sustainability.
So Ariana, Adore Me is interesting because you're obviously a fashion brand, but you're a fashion brand that really leans in on tech. When you think about tech, you think about data and measurement and metrics. Are you adopting or adhering to any specific external standard? Have you come up with your own set of metrics? And when you think about your campaign, would your campaign be enabled if you could point to a set of common standards?
Yeah, definitely. So starting off, so there's external standards that exist. So there's a grading system called the Higg Index. One of our manufacturers, we partner and work with them, and they actually grade our some of the collections and production that we've run with them through the Higg Index. They have a partnership with them, and so we're able to leverage that, which is really great. Internally, we also have our own tools looking at bras. So like the Higg Index wasn't initially built for lingerie. Lingerie is a bit more of a niche section of the fashion industry. And so there's a lot of kind of complications when coming to it, thinking about all of the different components in bras and panties, all the different things that go into one product. Our rating systems, they have been built internally from all the research that everyone has done here, from our knowledge and experience. Our plan is we've shown them to manufacturers. We also want to show them to partners with great expertise. I know we've talked about it with Marcy, getting her input on what we're looking at when we're rating things, the data that we're pulling. And we definitely know that there's more data, and we want more data to look at, to know how we're grading things is as trustworthy as we can be to our customers, is as deep as we need to go for our product through the whole supply chain. Like Marcy said, it can touch multiple hands before it gets to the customer. And so actually considering all of those touch points in our rating system, I think could be great. And it's definitely something that we need to work on and expand on our side.
So we just got a question in the chat, and I encourage people to put any questions in the chat app. Towards the last 10 or 15 minutes, we'll take as many questions as possible. But this question came up, and I was wondering the same thing. Someone is saying, how is Adore Me explaining those rating systems and sustainable products to the customer? Do they seem to be responding? And I would add, do they care? Like, I don't know. You don't want to know my shopping habits, but when I think about my undergarments, I don't think I've ever once thought about, are they sustainable or not? So tell me the feedback you're getting from the market. And then specifically, are you able to, is it your strategy to take any of this technical information and try to communicate it to consumers? And even if you did that effectively, would they care?
Absolutely. It is our plan to share that with our customers. Like I said earlier, in our rating system, we kind of only share once it hits a certain point. And then what's really great, since the tools were internally built in our systems, kind of where we house all of the product information, we can update the scores, and then they automatically get updated to our website. And so in kind of the details, bullet points of the product online, if something has kind of like a sticker saying sustainably made, it'll have call outs of why exactly. Is it responsibly sourced material? Is it recycled material? Is there a process saving water? We also have pages on our website that kind of go further down into the details of the nitty gritty. If the customers want to learn more, if they want to understand more what we're trying to do with the products and changing our process of design and development. And then we're also changing for customers' experience when they get products. We've actually just updated our hang tags to have a little QR code that they can scan immediately and learn more about, what we're doing as a company, as a brand. I think ultimately, I know Marcy is actually working on this, and some other companies are, for traceability, having this QR code that you can scan, and then it's immediately showing the customer, where is the material coming from? And it shows all the hands that are touching it. It
How soon are
shows.
you going to have that?
We're
So
launching in October, so we'd love to, we're going to bring that to Adore Me, hopefully in early 22.
mhm.
Okay, I was at a you guys probably remember about 6 years ago, everybody was talking about blockchain, and then the price dropped, and then it disappeared, and now it's back, right? But back in the day when they were talking about it, in the environmental sustainability area and the nonprofit area, there were all these great applications about, tuna is caught off of Australia, and it shows up at a grocery store, and one package just has the price per pound and the type of tuna. A package next to it lists the boat it was caught on, the name of the captain, what body of water, what time and date it was purchased. So, that's been sitting out there for 6 or 7 years, that level of traceability. I've never heard of it. Well, I've heard about it a little in fashion, but if that's something you guys are really working on, that's fantastic. Hey, one other question for you, Ariana, before I move to Marcy. So Victoria's Secret, VC, right? The Death Star, and then La Perla. Where do you guys think you rank on your sustainability efforts relative to those two brands?
Honestly, I think we're definitely in the early stages of this journey. We are not claiming we are doing anything amazing or, revolutionary yet. But the idea is that we want to keep learning and grow and get there. I think what's been really exciting is that it isn't just me who really cares about this in the company and who's trying to push people to get on top of get behind projects and everything. It's a really core value shared within the company. So it's not just looking at the way things are produced and designed and production. It's the supply chain team. Everyone there is also looking at, transportation, the poly bags, everything from the hang tags are now out of recycled material. The poly bags are recycled. Mailers are biodegradable. Also looking at the way we airship and choosing as much as we possibly can not to airship because of the carbon imprint that has and footprint and everything. And so I think one of the benefits that Adore Me has is that it is kind of a movement highly backed by leadership, but then everyone in the company has the ability to share their ideas, and they're really listened and try and how do we enact it? How do we actually implement it into business as usual? And that it's not something special, it's just daily.
Yes, said another way, and I say this to a lot of people, you can't, well, 2 points. We all know about Victoria's Secret's pivot, right? So how they're trying to pivot that brand positioning. So while this conversation is about affordable sustainability, there's no question it lives within a larger societal conversation about capitalism. Where is it going? The role of capitalism, social purpose, all this stuff that Laura was talking about a minute ago. So Marcy, a question from the audience for you. Let me get this right. Yeah, for Marcy, why do you think the fashion industry hasn't already moved towards affordability? If this is possible, what does the apparel industry need to do to get there?
Well, yes, I think the first frontier of our movement was really kind of establishing baseline around, what are the materials that we're working with? What are the systems we're working with? And as, the early, pioneers of the movement kind of got into the trenches, driving early innovation, it was done at very small scale levels. And just by virtue, again, of business and supply and demand and economics, that oftentimes meant that there was an incremental cost involved when you were doing small scale production to try to drive change. So, it's been a lot of years in the making, but I believe today we're at a tipping point. We're at a pivotal juncture for our movement where it's not about staying ahead anymore. It's about not being left behind, where it's also for the consumer, not about why would you buy sustainable fashion? It's why wouldn't you buy sustainable fashion? Because if you can have great product, and that's really where it always starts. So I really applaud, all the efforts of Adore Me, in the sense that A, they're driving with great product. B, the leadership is driving their efforts, and it's top down in terms of, empowering teams within Adore Me to embrace these systems changes. They're not easy. They can be super daunting, but it really takes everybody to work together and cooperate, and sustainability within a major fashion brand, it has to be holistic. One of the things that used to drive me crazy back in the day was, going into a major company and recognizing that sustainability teams, who were oftentimes positioned as like the ugly stepchildren of their companies, right? Like back in the day of sustainable brands, everyone was like, trying to be heard, right? And today they're the heroes of their companies, right? But the sustainability people didn't talk to finance, who didn't talk to marketing, who didn't talk to sourcing, who didn't talk to, and everybody was operating in silos. Design was designing in their own sort of world, not really understanding that sourcing and design, have to be deeply connected to actually make these changes from the beginning, right? So I think that where we are today as an industry is, it's all hands on deck. The factories are engaged, the consumers are engaged, the brands and retailers are engaged. Everybody in the supply chain in some way or another recognizes, and again, likening this to what's happened in the food space, right? Which is, there was a day where organic food was perceived as much more expensive or healthier food. And so it was sort of positioned as the elite, only the elite could afford it. But today, organic food is everywhere. It's a $62 billion US market alone. And there's an interconnection there, right? Where, food and fiber are growing side by side in agriculture. Our raw materials are connected to our food system. I mean, Jeff, as you know, I was the co-founder of a brand called Good Catch, which is a plant-based seafood brand, which was really addressing, the proliferation of microfibers in our oceans as one piece of that puzzle. But you look at our food and our fiber systems, and we have to be looking at solutions as they go hand in hand. And now that we have the support of today's consumer demanding transparency, we have major retailers, some of our biggest retailers around the world, that are connecting food and fiber. And we have all of the, industry engaged in some way or another. It's driving change in a way that we can create, greater supply and demand, and ultimately match those systems so that we can offer, amazing products with no compromise that are also affordable and accessible. If somebody would have told me a few years ago that I'd, be going on mainstream television on QVC to talk about organic and sustainable fashion and home textiles, meeting the mainstream, QVC customer, 100,000 plus people a minute, where they are, to talk about this, and it's working, right? That is very telling, right? It's very telling, because it says that it's now starting to penetrate the mainstream, because that same customer who's buying fashion, which we all do. I mean, think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It starts, our first basic need is food, but then we evolve and we say, what else? What's next? What more? Well, shelter, clothing, these are all connected. So that consumer now is voting with their dollars. They're looking for ways to engage. And yes, affordability is paramount. And I do believe today, with all the collaborations, all the progress, all the innovation, we are at a place where it's not about doing less bad. It's about doing more good now. And we can apply, all of the learnings that we've had, all of the systems change, and we can now be more efficient, more vertical, and then ultimately, bring values to the customer today.
Great. So Laura, we've all talked a lot about food. I've been blown away at the impact Impossible and Beyond have had on our society. Talk about a teaching moment. You were on the inside of that. Is there any learning from Beyond Meat? I mean, when you were at NASDAQ and Beyond came along with their promise, did you call BS, or did you think it was real? Did you see it coming? So tell me what that felt like, and what's the learning for this conversation?
Yeah, no, Ethan is a phenomenal founder. And that is something that is fantastic to see. When we were at his opening bell, he had a lot of his college and his high school friends. And I was like, wow, this is so great that he's doing this. And he's like, no, he was always like this. So he was always focused on, how he was going to change this industry in a more sustainable way. So a lot of the pioneers, as you're seeing some of the people on this call, this has been with them. This is their life's work. This is something that they started a long time ago. And he was focused on this back when he was in college and really wanted to work through how to impact the food industry. So it didn't just start all of a sudden when, you know, things became popular about alternative meat sources. This was his life's work, and the process is real. And he was working on it for a long time. And everybody at Beyond Meat really takes a lens of how to think through, not just as an alternative meat source, right? Because there's obviously a lot of vegan food out there, but it's a way to educate the consumer of, hey, this is a protein, a way that you can eat. It's another alternative to meat in a sustainable way. And they're trying to expand it across different, not, you know, like breakfast sandwiches and different ways to serve it. So yeah, and now you're seeing more, and you know, brands like that, like Impossible Foods. And then I saw something recently on the fish industry. They're growing something for salmon. So it's coming along. And again, these founders that started this have started this from the root. And that's what I'm seeing a lot today, working with private companies and supporting them. The innovation that's coming through in our pipeline on how to impact food, how to impact the fashion industry, how to impact all of the supply chain is just phenomenal, and really coming from the source. I'm working with a company that is working with farmers in Colombia because they thought the supply chain on the coffee business was just really crazy. And she is empowering those farmers so that you can have a direct connection to them to see where the source is and how they're growing their beans, how they're sending them over. So there's no middleman. It's really cool. And I think a lot of that vision is being adopted by other companies. So I'm really excited about the innovation that's happening with the entrepreneurs across the US and internationally.
So we've just got 5 minutes left. I want to ask you each one really quick question. And then I want to turn it over to Ariana and tell us, you know, kind of what are next steps with the campaign? How can people get involved? What kind of partners are you looking for? But just, you know, 30-second answer from each of you, starting with you, Laura. What's the role of retail? What's the role of Amazon? Do you see the retail channels, the big, you know, the Macy's, the big aggregators, are they laggards or leaders? And what would you like to see them do? Laura?
I think they're laggers right now. You know, the small business owners, the boutiques, they're the leaders, and they're trying to impact those laggers, but they're seeing that. And so now you're trying to see that connection from the online and offline world to be more inclusive of those smaller businesses and how they can bring them into their ecosystem. I would say Nordstrom does a pretty good job of that. I see them working more with the community and really trying to help those brands that are focused in this area be a part of their ecosystem.
Great. Marcy, quick response.
Yeah, well, we can't change the world if only a small subset of us are actually, you know, making these changes happen. So we do need the scale that these big retailers bring. And I do think that many of them, I wouldn't say all of them, but I would say many, if not most of them, are setting goals. The interesting thing that's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years is how are they going to attain those goals? Because today's consumer is going to hold them accountable. Right. So now it's, you know, game on. But I do think when you look at Amazon as an example, they've made a net carbon zero commitment. Right. You've got Walmart just announced a big, you know, sustainability commitment, a major goal. Target has made their goals. You know, you talk about, you know, all of them are making these kind of audacious goals, mostly focused on climate change mitigation, because that is really our most pressing issue today. But now it's going to be, you know, we have to hold hands and help them get there, meet them where they are, not isolate them and criticize them for what they're not doing, but celebrate what they are doing so that we can all rise together.
That's great. So Ariana, we have 2 minutes left. Tell us what are the next steps for the campaign, how the audience can help, what kind of partners are you looking for?
I think next steps is, I don't think we have anything necessarily in mind. We wanted to take this as an open topic conversation and just have a dialogue, see the people who are in the audience, who would like to be involved, who want to get connected. Emails are shared, and I would love to hear from people, any place in the supply chain, from, you know, manufacturing to sourcing to production, absolutely any space. I think we're open to working with. Like I said, we have lots of different product categories. This isn't something that we're trying to say, you know, Adore Me is owning and we're here to be foremost in front. It's more of, we want to bring multiple brands. We want to bring multiple companies, retailers, everyone together and find a way to make a bigger impact in the affordable sustainability.
That's perfect. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to my panelists, Ariana, Marcy, and Laura, and hopefully Adore Me will figure out how to continue this dialogue and build out this community. And again, for any of you that are watching, please reach out to us. The emails are in the chat, or hit people via LinkedIn. But thank you very much. Thank you all for participating. Happy birthday, Laura.
Happy birthday, Laura. Thank you.
you.
Ariana,
Thank you.
for me and
And
Jeff.
you guys. Thank you so much.
Take care.